Then Alyssa Thomas not only punches Caitlin Clark in the throat, but then presses down. She's being assaulted. She's being attacked right in front of the ref's eyes. They choose not to call it. Then in the same game, Aaliyah Boston catches Kahleah Copper with the elbow, but what did they do?
Body language doesn't lie. And what we just witnessed in this recent series against the Phoenix Mercury is rapidly becoming the most controversial storyline in professional basketball. That wasn't just a tough basketball play. That was what appeared to be an intentional strike right to the neck area of a franchise player. And the sequence that follows tells you everything you need to know about the current state of officiating in this league. So we have to ask, is the WNBA's newest star being subjected to standard rookie hazing, or is this an allegedly coordinated effort to physically break her down?
2 minutes. Look at the referee right there. Watches the entire thing go down. Calls it. That's a foul on Alyssa Thomas. There's no way it couldn't be. Look at her eyes, looking right at the elbow to Caitlin Clark. They review it and change it to a foul on Caitlin. This is just crap.
Now watch the officials carefully during this exact sequence. The referee is looking directly at the interaction. An elbow is clearly thrown at Caitlin Clark. But instead of protecting the offensive player, the officials review the tape and allegedly assign the foul to Clark herself. It defies basic basketball logic. This isn't just about missing a fast-moving play in real time. This is about looking at the monitor and actively choosing a narrative. We are watching a 6-foot, 150-pound point guard take heavy, unpenalized hits from established veterans while getting handed technical fouls simply for clapping her hands in frustration.
The first foul Caitlin Clark got, but look how she puts her fist in Caitlin Clark's stomach and pushes her. And lands right on her tailbone, lower back. Illegal screen. Watch how hard this impact is. Like, that's a shoulder right to her sternum. But it happened multiple times. Look at this leg. That's a moving screen. Offensive foul.
That kind of unchecked physicality has real, compounding consequences. Remember that detail about the jump shot from earlier in the game? When a defender allegedly places a fist in a shooter's stomach mid-air, causing them to land directly on their tailbone. That is how season-ending lower back injuries happen. Yet, moving screens and shoulders to the sternum are being completely ignored by the crew. It forces players into an impossible position. You can't defend yourself physically without getting whistled, but if you rely on the officials, you're going to end up in the locker room with the medical staff.
So that is an upgraded flagrant foul, 2 shots and the ball, but this is nothing. That is nothing. No upgrade, no review. Caitlin Clark can't talk to the officials, or the whole world will say she's crazy. An elbow, they actually review it and call it on.
But that's just the surface. What happens next is what really exposes the double standard. In this exact same matchup, Aaliyah Boston gets involved in a physical play with Kahleah Copper. The officials immediately stop the game, review the footage, and upgrade it to a flagrant foul, awarding free throws and possession to the Mercury. Yet, when Clark sustains reportedly worse contact, there is zero upgrade, no review, nothing. And because she can't even speak to the officials without risking another technical, she is forced to absorb the punishment in silence while the broadcast attempts to paint her as the emotional one on the floor.
You're about to hear from Stephanie White. What we've been saying every single game since she's played. She's played 31 games under Stephanie White. Stephanie White, this is the first time she's ever came out and said anything when this has been going on for 31 freaking games with her an entire season.
And this is where it gets personal for the Indiana Fever's leadership. For 31 straight games, head coach Stephanie White stood relatively quiet while her rookie took historically high numbers of uncalled hits. 31 games of allegedly blown travels, missed push-offs, and phantom whistles on the supporting cast. But after this back-to-back Mercury series, the dam finally broke.
I mean, the fist in the throat is crazy. It's crazy. It's dangerous. You're coming in here aware of what happened 2 nights ago, and that still happens? Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And the reckless closeout that they actually reviewed and the foot still comes down on top of the defender's foot that wasn't upgraded, absolutely disrespectful. We have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say again, absolutely unacceptable. When you have these things continue to happen time and time again, eventually it gets frustrating, but I thought those were...
Here is what makes Stephanie White's delayed explosion so significant for the future of the franchise. When a head coach finally uses words like egregious and absolutely unacceptable in a post-game press conference, it signals a massive internal shift. For months, the Fever organization attempted to play the good soldier. They absorbed the narrative that this was merely a physical league and that rookies simply need to earn their stripes. But the footage from these Phoenix games shattered that diplomatic approach entirely. Look closely at the timeline leading up to this boiling point. This isn't an isolated weekend of bad whistles. This is the culmination of 31 consecutive games where the standard rules of basketball seemingly did not apply to one specific roster. We are talking about basic fundamental calls, traveling violations, moving screens, and defensive cylinder protections that are strictly enforced on one end of the floor and completely abandoned on the other. When Alyssa Thomas allegedly takes 4 steps to the basket without a whistle, but Clark gets whistled for a travel while keeping a stationary pivot foot, the integrity of the contest comes into question. But the problem extends far beyond a single player's box score. Think about the strategic collateral damage happening to the rest of the Indiana Fever roster. Players like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston are being hit with what fans are calling ghost fouls. When your starting rotation is terrified to play standard defense because of by association whistles, the entire defensive scheme collapses. They are essentially being penalized for sharing the court with the league's biggest lightning rod, forced into foul trouble before the fourth quarter even begins. Consider the sheer volume of missed calls in the fourth quarter alone. The footage shows a staggering sequence where 10 consecutive whistles allegedly went against the Fever. When Lexi Hull goes up for an offensive rebound and gets hit completely out of the air without a whistle, only to be called for a foul herself moments later, it demoralizes the entire bench. You cannot execute a late-game comeback when every hustle play is penalized and every physical challenge by the defense is rewarded with a turnover. And that leads directly to the tragedy of how this specific game concluded. Because of the accumulated physical toll, the uncalled hits, the blindside screens, the alleged strikes to the neck and back, Clark wasn't even on the floor to attempt a game-winning shot. She was back in the locker room, receiving medical attention. Imagine the sequence we were robbed of: a fast break, a pristine pass from Hull, and a signature logo 3 for the win. We didn't get to experience that moment because the officiating crew allegedly allowed the game to devolve into a physical brawl rather than a basketball contest. And then there is the undeniable business paradox at the heart of this entire situation. We are watching a league that is currently experiencing unprecedented viewership, pulling in massive, record-breaking ratings night after night, actively turning a blind eye while its primary economic driver gets battered. From a pure entertainment and revenue standpoint, allowing a generational talent to take repeated, unpenalized hits to the throat and lower back is administrative malpractice. You do not risk the golden goose to protect the pride of veteran enforcers. Watch that initial throat interaction one more time in your mind. The sheer mechanics of that play are terrifying. A forearm to the neck area of a defenseless player isn't a basketball move. It is a potentially career-altering strike. And the fact that it was followed by an alleged knee to the crotch and full bodyweight takedowns suggests a level of targeted animosity that goes way beyond competitive fire. If these reports of intentional targeting are accurate, the league is courting a massive liability issue. Now compare this environment to any other professional sports league in the world. When the NHL has a generational scorer, the enforcers protect them. When the NBA sees a transcendent rookie taking cheap shots, the officials tighten the whistle immediately to protect the product. But here, the dynamic is inverted. The officials are reportedly punishing the rookie for reacting to the contact, handing out technical fouls for clapping, while upgrading standard fouls by the opposition into flagrants. It is a psychological pressure cooker designed to force a breaking point. The contrast reveals something incredibly important about the existing power structure within the association. Veterans are actively testing the boundaries of the officials, and the officials are yielding to the veterans. When Sophie Cunningham or Kalea Copper initiate contact, the benefit of the doubt is automatically applied to their tenure. It creates an unplayable environment where the Fever have to beat both the opposing 5 players and the ingrained biases of the crew holding the whistles. Stephanie White had to know this reckoning was coming. What makes her post-game comments particularly fascinating is her own history in the league. Before taking over the Fever, she coached against Clark and allegedly watched these exact same physical tactics be deployed. Her sudden willingness to call out the reckless closeouts and unupgraded foot under the shooter fouls indicates that the internal metrics, the team's own medical staff, and video coordinators have sounded the alarm. The injuries are adding up, and the quiet approach has officially failed. This dynamic is going to continue to escalate unless the league office intervenes. You cannot have a star player hiding in the locker room nursing a lower back injury because a defender decided to run through a screen rather than around it. The sheer physics of a moving screen delivered by a heavier veteran against a lighter guard creates a dangerous whiplash effect. If the league refuses to upgrade these blindside hits after video review, they are tacitly endorsing the strategy. So the ultimate question becomes, how does Indiana respond when they face the Aces next Sunday? They can no longer rely on the referees for protection. They can no longer rely on the league office to issue retroactive fines or suspensions. The Fever are entirely on their own on an island, forced to navigate a hostile environment where even breathing on an opponent results in a defensive foul, but taking a shoulder to the sternum is just considered welcome to the league basketball. Mark my words, this relationship between the team and the officials is fractured beyond repair for the remainder of this season. Stephanie White's comments have drawn a line in the sand, and the league will either have to protect its players equitably or face the reality of losing its biggest star to a completely preventable injury. So whose side are you on? Are the veterans justified in testing the rookie, or is the league enabling a dangerous level of targeted assault? Let me know exactly where you stand in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for more in-depth breakdowns, and stay tuned for our next video where we track every single uncalled hit since opening night.